Imagine you're just, holding the door for a stranger, giving them a warm smile, and walking away feeling like a pretty good person.
Right. You feel like you put some good out into the world.
Exactly. But what if I told you that simple act of kindness didn't actually earn you any points in heaven? What if it actually locked you into this kind of thermodynamic prison?
That is definitely not what they teach you in Sunday school.
No, definitely not. Because what if, by doing that favor, you didn't just put good vibes out there, but you actually generated this inescapable cosmic debt, a debt that the universe will literally force you to pay back?
I mean, it sounds completely backwards to, well, basically everything we're taught about morality, right?
Yeah.
We usually treat human interactions, especially the positive ones, as these free-flowing, purely emotional events. We smile at someone, we feel a spark of chemistry, or maybe we walk into a room and feel an immediate, inexplicable clash with someone we've never even met.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We write that off as intuition.
Yeah.
Or just, a weird vibe. We romanticize it so much. I mean, we write thousands of pop songs about that instant connection. But today's deep dive is taking a completely different angle.
A very different angle.
Yeah, we are stripping away the poetry today. We're looking at relationships as literal mechanical physics.
That's just fascinating.
It really is. We are diving into a highly specific framework laid out in a 2012 text called The Interpretation of Predestined Ties, written by Zhu Feng. And our mission today for this deep dive is to explore how this text frames every single human interaction, not as a spiritual metaphor, but as a rigid system of cosmic thermodynamics.
And that distinction, the one between metaphor and physics, that is the crucial starting point here. Xu Feng isn't just offering up vague philosophy.
Right.
The language used in this text is startlingly precise. It lays out a framework where every interaction generates a literal measurable force.
Like actual science terms.
Yes, exactly. It creates a bond of data like actual information that dictates the trajectory of your life across time and space.
Wait, hold on. Are we just talking about karma here? Because usually, karma is framed as this sort of cosmic moral scoreboard.
That's how most people see it, yeah.
Right. You do good things, your score goes up, you get a good life. But you're making this sound more like plugging an appliance into a wall.
Well, it is much closer to an electrical circuit than a moral scoreboard.
Okay, weird.
It is. And to understand why, we have to look at how Xu Feng defines a tie, like capital T, tie.
The tie.
Right. A tie is defined as a bond of information that will reconnect two lives in the future. And this bond is forged through one of three specific triggers:
Which are?
favor, disgrace, or injury. If you trigger one of those three things, you generate what the text calls attractive force.
Attractive force, like traction, like being pulled.
Precisely. It's a literal pull. The text states that once you acquire a tie, it must be ended. Otherwise, that attractive force will be inescapable.
Wow.
Yeah, and it describes this in incredibly scientific terms, calling it potential energy that accumulates between lives.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because this is where the physics language needs a solid anchor for me.
Sure.
Let's move away from the usual idea of a spiritual connection. Let's think of the universe as a completely closed, pressurized system.
Okay, I like that.
So if I do you a massive favor, or conversely, if I cause you a terrible injury, I am essentially pumping pressure into that system. I'm basically compressing a giant cosmic rubber band between us.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. And as we both walk away, moving on with our lives, maybe even moving across the world, that compressed rubber band, that potential energy, is still sitting there in the system.
And thermodynamics dictates the pressurized system cannot remain unbalanced indefinitely.
It has to snap back.
It must equalize. The text explains that this potential energy circulates in infinite space and eternal time until those two specific lives intersect again.
So it's literally just waiting for the trigger.
It is waiting for the exact microscopic point of reunion. When those two people finally meet again, that potential energy transforms into kinetic energy.
And
boom!
Yeah.
The energy is forcibly released, the debt is settled, and the attractive force finally disappears.
That is wild.
It really reframes things, doesn't it? It frames our messy, unpredictable lives as inevitable thermodynamic equations that the universe simply demands we balance.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the everyday application of this.
What do you mean?
Well, let's say I'm walking down the street and someone violently bumps into me, spilling hot coffee all over my shirt.
Right. Terrible start to the day.
Exactly. My instinct is to think, wow, what a jerk, I have terrible luck today. But in this framework, that's not bad luck.
No, not at all.
That is kinetic energy being released. That is a compressed spring finally snapping open from a tie that was forged who knows when.
That is the exact mechanism. The universe is just balancing its ledger in that moment.
Just paying a debt.
Exactly. The person spilling the coffee isn't some random antagonist out to get you. They are a mathematical necessity fulfilling attractive force.
But that raises a massive logistical problem for this whole system, I think. Yeah, if these ties act like gravitational forces pulling us toward certain people, surely a deep, loving relationship has to operate differently than a bitter rivalry, right?
I don't think so.
Right, because a universe that treats a lifelong romance exactly the same as a spilled cup of coffee seems, I don't know, a bit too rudimentary.
Well, the framework actually accounts for that by introducing what we could call a spectrum of gravity.
Okay, a spectrum of gravity.
Yeah, it starts with the classic concepts of good and evil karma, but it redefines them mechanically.
Okay, how so?
So evil karma, for instance, is defined strictly as hatred and debt between lives. And the rule here is absolute.
Which is?
This gravitational pull of malice never disappears until the hatred is settled or the physical debt is paid.
Yeah.
It is a very dense, heavy energy that forces you into adversarial collisions.
Okay, I can visualize that. If I steal from someone, I owe them. That's a debt. The universe wants its money back.
Precisely.
But what about the other end of the spectrum? What happens when you do something genuinely selfless?
This is where the framework totally subverts our expectations. Good karma occurs when one life gives another a sincere blessing or a favor.
Okay, sounds good so far.
But listen to the mechanical language Quifeng uses here. He says this sincere blessing will cause a corresponding gravity to return in the future.
Wait, back up. Are you saying a sincere blessing is a bad thing?
In a way, yes.
But I thought the whole point of spirituality was to build up good karma. We're taught to be charitable and kind.
Right, that's the standard view.
But in this framework, being nice to someone is essentially handing them a cosmic IOU that keeps us both trapped.
That is the exact radical implication of this text. It completely dismantles how we normally view morality.
That is mind-blowing.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yes, absolute balance is the rule. Whether it is a debt of malice or a debt of gratitude, any unresolved information keeps you tethered to the system.
Wow.
A favor is just another form of pressure in the tank.
So even if I give someone a gift, expecting absolutely nothing in return, the universe doesn't care about my pure intentions.
Not even a little bit.
The universe just says, a transfer of energy occurred, a debt was created, and you two are now gravitationally locked until that energy is returned.
Actually, your pure intention is what creates the strongest lock.
Are you serious?
I am. The text dives deeply into what it calls favorable ties. These are bonds built on mutual love, honor, and deep connection.
Okay.
These aren't just passing favors. These are two lives that bless each other and are genuinely eager to reunite.
But if two people love each other and want to reunite, but then one of them dies, where does that pressure go?
That's the big question.
Right, because if this is a closed thermodynamic system,
Yes.
you can't just delete the data of that love just because a biological body expired.
And you've just hit on one of the most fascinating mechanisms in the entire text.
Oh, really?
Yes. Feng introduces a concept called the negative universe.
The negative universe. That sounds like a sci-fi movie.
It kind of does. He argues that the love and honor from these favorable ties leave information to be processed.
Information to be processed.
Right. And because it cannot be processed immediately in the physical realm once someone dies, it is uploaded and stored in this negative universe.
Wait, so it sounds like a cosmic hard drive. Or like a server farm for human souls.
It functions exactly like a server farm. It stores all of our loving intentions, all of our unresolved favorable ties as literal data.
And it just sits there.
It sits there, and this data never degrades. It waits in the negative universe, keeping the attractive force active until those two individuals reincarnate, reunite, and their wills are finally realized in the physical world.
So love isn't just a fleeting emotion.
Not at all.
It's a programmatic command. It's lines of code in the universe's operating system that literally forces a future event.
Exactly. And the text gets remarkably granular about how this code plays out in specific relationships, too.
Like romantic ones.
Yes, it specifically defines marriage ties. But it doesn't describe them with, flowery romantic language.
I would hope not, given the rest of this.
Right. It realistically, almost bluntly, calls them the love-hate relationships between husbands and wives.
I actually appreciate that bluntness.
It's very grounded.
It is. Anyone who has been in a long-term partnership knows it's not all pure bliss all the time. There is friction. You argue about loading the dishwasher, you sacrifice for each other, you hold minor grudges, you experience profound joy.
All of it.
And Shuifeng is viewing all of that friction, the love and the hate, as a highly complex, dense knot of energetic ties being constantly forged and resolved.
It's a very pragmatic view of intimacy. The more time you spend with someone, the more data you are generating in the system, both positive and negative.
That sounds exhausting, honestly.
It gets bigger, too. Just to show the sheer scale of this physics engine, the text also mentions celestial ties.
Celestial ties.
Yes, which are bonds formed with celestial beings. So this thermodynamic system isn't just a human phenomenon.
Oh, wow.
It applies across all planes of existence, interacting with higher-level entities as well.
Which brings up a really practical question, I think.
Go for it.
If this data is just floating around, being generated by billions of people and celestial beings across multiple planes of existence, how on earth does the universe keep it all straight?
That is a great question.
Right. Like if I incur a debt down here on Earth, can I just appeal to a celestial being to wipe my hard drive?
Unfortunately, no. The universe keeps it straight through an incredibly rigid system of jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction.
Yes. You cannot have this level of cosmic physics without a highly structured environment to contain it. The text defines something called worldly ties.
Worldly ties.
These are the specific bits of information left and the debts owed exclusively in the mortal world.
Okay, so the Earth is its own specific server.
Yes, and there is a brutally strict rule governing it.
Lay it on me.
Shuifeng states that worldly ties must be ended in the mortal world. Heavenly ones must be ended in heaven, and hellish ones must be ended in hell.
So totally compartmentalized.
Exactly. It is a principle of non-transferable debt.
Let me put this in earthly terms, because it sounds exactly like a system of cosmic extradition.
Oh, I like that.
Imagine you commit a major financial crime in one country. You can't just hop the border, walk into a foreign courthouse, and offer to pay your fine in a different currency to a judge who has no jurisdiction over your crime.
Right. They would just laugh at you.
The mortal realm demands that its own ledgers be balanced on its own turf.
That analogy fits perfectly. You cannot carry the energetic baggage of one realm into another.
That makes a lot of sense.
And to enforce this boundary, the text describes what it calls the invisible mesh.
The invisible mesh.
Yeah, it uses a very evocative quote. It says, "Divine punishments are slow, but always sure with big meshes, yet letting nothing slip through."
Wow, okay. I want to tie this directly to the listener's daily life for a second.
Let's do it.
Let's say you're listening to this deep dive on your commute and someone cuts you off aggressively.
Classic scenario.
You lean on the horn, you yell, you get incredibly angry.
Yeah.
In this framework, getting angry doesn't just ruin your morning. You've just thrown a hook into the invisible mess.
You really have.
You have literally entangled your spiritual data with that total stranger's data.
And that entanglement is permanent until resolved?
Permanent.
Yes. The text emphasizes this repeatedly. It says, "Ties are tractive forces. Those which are not ended will stay in tow forever, no matter how far apart in time or space, and they can never be escaped."
So distance means absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all. You can move to a cabin in the woods to avoid humanity. You could wait 1,000 lifetimes.
And it wouldn't matter.
Not one bit. That tractive force is still pulling on you, completely ignoring the bounds of time and space, waiting for the kinetic energy to release.
That is terrifying.
Escaping the invisible mesh without resolving the specific debt in its specific jurisdiction is mechanically impossible.
I have to be honest, looking at life this way sounds absolutely exhausting.
It is a lot of pressure.
It's so much pressure. You're walking around with millions of invisible fishing lines attached to you. Some are attached to your family, some to the guy who cut you off in traffic 10 years ago, some to someone you bought a coffee for in a previous century.
It's a massive web.
So if we are constantly, unavoidably generating these inescapable gravitational debts, how does anyone ever break free? What is the actual goal here?
To figure out how to escape the mesh, we have to look at the two final, most critical definitions in Shuifeng's framework.
Okay.
The first is straightforward, though incredibly difficult in practice. It's called end ties.
End ties.
The text defines this simply as the state when all debts are paid back. You have to literally zero out your ledger.
Easy to say, incredibly hard to do when you factor in thousands of lifetimes of accidental interactions.
Which is exactly why the second definition is so vital. It's a behavioral instruction called following predestined ties.
Following predestined ties.
Yeah. The text states that to do this, you must, and I am quoting directly here, according to the arrangement of the universal scenario and plot, accept and play the assigned role with pleasure.
Hold on. Universal scenario and plot. That suddenly makes this sound like we are entirely scripted.
It implies exactly that. To follow a predestined tie means recognizing that you are an actor on a very complex stage.
So we're just playing parts.
Right. When the invisible mesh pulls someone into your life, whether it's an adversary who wrongs you or a benefactor who helps you, you aren't supposed to fight the interaction.
You just let it happen.
You are supposed to joyfully accept the role you have been assigned in that moment. You play your part so that the kinetic energy can finally be released, the debt can be paid, and the tie can be permanently severed.
Because fighting it just makes it worse.
Exactly. Resistance only creates more friction and more ties.
So let me get this straight. If someone steals from me, my role in the universal plot is to simply accept the loss with pleasure, knowing I am paying off an ancient debt.
That is the theory, yes.
That requires an almost superhuman level of detachment.
It really does. But the ultimate twist in this text is what happens when you finally achieve that detachment.
What do you mean?
What happens when the play is over and you want to leave the stage entirely? The text lays out the ultimate, uncompromising requirement.
Okay, bracing myself.
It says, anyone who wants to go to heaven must end all ties in the mortal world as soon as possible.
But wait, earlier you said that good karma and favorable ties are also forms of attractive force.
Yes, they are.
So, what does this all mean for our positive relationships? If the goal is to reach heaven, to ascend beyond this mortal server we're on, does that require a state of total emotional and karmic zero?
It explicitly requires it.
You're kidding.
I'm not. The text confirms that you must end all ties, heavily emphasizing that this includes your good karma, your favorable ties, and your marriage ties. If you do not clear these, you cannot leave.
Wow. I am genuinely struggling with this.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It really is. We are raised in almost every culture to believe that being a good person, building loving relationships, leaving a positive legacy, that these are the exact things that grant you access to a higher spiritual plane.
Exactly. It flips the script entirely.
But this framework says that to achieve true spiritual freedom, you must actively clear away your love. You have to sever the rubber bands of gratitude just as thoroughly as the rubber bands of hate.
Yes, and the consequence of failing to do so is basically the engine of our reality.
What do you mean?
The text warns that if you don't zero out every single tie, you will be unable to leave the mortal world. You will have to reincarnate back into the mortal world of samsara to end the ties in future lives.
Samsara being the endless grinding cycle of birth, mundane existence, and death.
Exact.
So samsara isn't a punishment, necessarily. It's essentially a mandatory recycling program for unresolved beta.
That is a brilliant way to put it.
So if you die owing someone $5, or if you die owing someone a favor because they saved your life, the universe forces you back into a physical body simply to balance that specific thermodynamic equation.
Exactly. This raises a profound question about how we fundamentally view spiritual success.
Really does.
In Schweffing's framework, heaven is not a VIP club for the nicest people. It is not a reward for accumulating a giant pile of good deeds.
Right.
Heaven is a state of absolute weightlessness. It is accessible only to those who have zeroed out their mortal ledger entirely.
So you basically have to become a ghost before you even die.
In a sense, yes. You must participate in the world. You must play your part in the universe's script perfectly.
Hit your marks.
Right. You must be kind, pay your debts, and accept your circumstances. But when the curtain falls, you must step off the stage owing absolutely nothing to anyone, not a grudge, and not even a favor.
It has a staggering shift in perspective.
It really makes you rethink everything.
It does. To recap the journey we've been on today in this deep dive, we started by stripping away the romance of human connection, looking at our relationships as literal potential and kinetic energy within a closed thermodynamic system.
Right, the physics of it all.
We explored the bizarre mechanics of the negative universe, where our deepest loving intentions are stored as data, just waiting to force us back together.
We examined the strict jurisdictional mesh that governs all of this, proving that mortal debts can only be paid in the mortal realm.
And we arrived at the ultimate, completely counterintuitive conclusion that to escape the recycling bin of samsara, you must zero out every single ledger, eradicating both the love and the hate.
Every last bit of it.
I want you, the listener, to pause and look at your own life right now. Look at the people around you.
Just observe them.
Who are the individuals holding your attractive forces? When you look at your interactions this week, which ones feel like heavy, ancient debts finally being paid off? And which ones feel like scripted roles that you are fighting against instead of joyfully accepting?
Adopting this mechanical view demands total accountability for every interaction.
It really does.
It changes how you look at the stranger who cuts you off in traffic, certainly. But more profoundly, it changes how you look at your closest loved ones. The text insists that to reach heaven, absolutely all worldly ties must be ended.
Even the beautiful ones?
Especially the beautiful ones, because those are the ties we cling to the most.
Wow.
So I will leave you with this final thought to chew on. If ending all ties is the truly mechanical, inescapable path to ultimate salvation, does achieving true spiritual freedom ultimately require becoming completely disconnected from everything and everyone you have ever loved?
Does that instant magical bond you feel with your soulmate merely represent a chain that sooner or later you will be forced to break?